Boss caught me with pantyhose. I never thought my secret would come out like this. Not at work, not in front of my boss. But life has a cruel way of turning the smallest indulgence into a full-blown disaster. My name is Ethan Carter, and on the surface, I'm just another corporate employee, 27, working long hours as a financial analyst at a high-end investment firm in New York City. The job is demanding, high stress, and comes with a dress code that suffocates the soul. Navy suits, crisp ties, polished shoes. There's no room for self-expression, no room for anything but numbers and profit margins. But behind closed doors, my world is entirely different. At home, I shed the rigid formality of my corporate life and embrace a side of myself no one at the office would ever suspect. I crossdress, not out of necessity, not as a fleeting thrill, but because it feels right. There's something liberating about slipping into sheer pantyhose, feeling a silk dress drape over my skin, or standing in heels that change my entire posture. It's a private ritual, a space where I can breathe, where I can be me. Of course, no one knows. No one can know, especially not at work. The story takes place in two vastly different worlds, the cold, sterile office of Harper and Lex Financial Group and the warm, intimate space of my apartment. The office is a high-rise glass tower, sleek and modern, filled with power-hungry executives and overworked analysts. The air smells of expensive cologne, fresh printed reports, and stress-induced coffee. My desk is neat, almost too neat, a reflection of the careful facade I maintain. At home, however, my apartment is a sanctuary of contrasts. The city noise fades behind thick curtains, soft lighting casts warm shadows, and my secret wardrobe waits in the closet, delicate lingerie, form-fitting dresses, and elegant heels. Here, in my private world, I exist outside of expectations. But the two worlds can never mix. Not if I want to keep my job. Not if I want to keep my relationship intact. Emma and I have been together for 3 years. She's beautiful, ambitious, and loves me in a way that sometimes feels too good to be true. We met in college, and she saw something in me that I hadn't even seen in myself. She brings out my confidence, keeps me grounded, and makes me feel like I belong somewhere in this chaotic world. But there's one thing I've never told her. I've thought about it, of course. I've rehearsed the conversation 100 times in my head. Would she accept it? Would she still see me the same way if she knew what I did when she wasn't around? I tell myself that I'm protecting her from something she wouldn't understand, that it's better this way. But deep down, I know the truth. I'm protecting myself. Emma values honesty more than anything. If she ever found out that I'd been hiding this part of me, it wouldn't just be about the crossdressing. It would be about the lies. And that terrifies me. At work, I'm careful, methodical. I keep my head down, deliver results, and avoid drawing attention. My boss, Victoria Langley, is the kind of woman who can make or break careers with a single glance. She's brilliant, ruthless, and commands respect the moment she enters a room. She's also intimidating as hell. I've spent 3 years ensuring she sees me as nothing more than a reliable, competent employee. If she ever found out about my secret, I don't know what she'd do. And yet, despite all my caution, despite all the effort I've put into keeping my two lives separate, I made a mistake. One small mistake. One that could ruin everything. And I don't even see it coming. My hands were still shaking as I stared at the door. Victoria Langley, my boss, was standing outside my apartment, knocking, calling my name, waiting. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. I was standing in my living room, dressed in pantyhose, heels, a burgundy slip dress, a blonde wig, and full makeup. If I answered the door now, everything I had spent years hiding would be exposed in a single, humiliating moment. But if I didn't answer, Victoria wasn't the kind of woman to walk away easily. 1,000 thoughts fought for control in my mind. Why was she here? Did she know? No, that was impossible. There was no way she could have known. And yet, fear had a way of twisting logic. I had been so careful over the years. No one, not Emma, not my coworkers, not even my closest friends, had any idea about this part of me. It was my escape, my secret world. A world I could never let slip into my real life. Because the truth was, I wasn't just crossdressing for fun. I needed it. Every time I slipped into a dress, or felt the silky embrace of pantyhose against my skin, it wasn't just about pleasure. It was about relief, about feeling whole in a way I never could in my daily life. But admitting that, to myself, to Emma, to anyone, felt impossible. And now, as Victoria stood outside my door, knocking harder, demanding answers, I realized just how thin the walls of my double life really were. Underscore 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 underscore. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. Victoria couldn't see me like this. I had to change, fast. But as I reached for the zipper of my dress, my fingers froze. Did I really want to strip this away so quickly? The dress, the wig, the heels, they weren't just clothes. They were a part of me, a version of me that I had to hide every single day. And for the past few hours, I had finally let that version breathe. I had walked around the apartment, glass of wine in hand, heels clicking against the floor, feeling more comfortable in my own skin than I ever did at the office. I had looked in the mirror and seen someone beautiful, someone who deserved to exist. And now, in an instant, I was about to erase it all. Because of fear. Because of a life I had built on half-truths and buried desires. The knocking came again, louder this time. "Ethan, are you home?" Victoria's voice was sharp, edged with impatience. She wasn't going to leave. I took a shaky breath. I could do this. I could fix this. I grabbed a robe. A simple, silky black robe that, while still feminine, at least covered most of the dress underneath. Next, the wig. I hesitated, then ripped it off, tossing it onto the couch. My makeup? There was no time to remove it all. I grabbed a tissue and quickly smudged the eyeliner, making it look messy, like I had just woken up, or maybe had a rough night. Finally, the heels. I kicked them off and shoved them under the couch. My heart was still racing as I tied the robe tightly around me and made my way to the door. This was it. Either I pulled this off, or everything came crashing down. I cracked the door open, peeking out as casually as I could manage. Victoria stood there, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. She was wearing her usual power suit, black blazer, pencil skirt, not a hair out of place. She looked me up and down. Her eyes flicked to my smudged makeup. I swallowed hard. Did she notice? "Victoria," I said, forcing a casual smile. "Didn't expect to see you here." She narrowed her eyes. "You weren't answering your phone." I blinked. My phone, where was it? A sinking feeling formed in my stomach. I had left it on the coffee table. Unlocked. Wide open. And on the screen, an online order confirmation for new pantyhose. My stomach twisted. If she had seen that, I forced a laugh, stepping back. Yeah. Sorry about that. Long day. Was just, unwinding." She stepped forward, and before I could stop her, she walked inside. I froze. She was inside my apartment. I hadn't cleaned up. The heels were under the couch. The wig was on the cushions. The pantyhose I had just worn were draped over the chair. And Victoria was looking at everything. I swallowed hard, trying to act normal. Victoria walked further in, looking around. "Unwinding, huh?" She gestured at my robe. "That why you're in that?" My mouth went dry. Did she suspect something? I forced another laugh. "Yeah. Just something comfortable." She said nothing, her gaze lingering on the wig for just a second too long. This was bad. I needed to get her out. Fast. "Anyway," I said, trying to sound casual, "what brings you here?" Victoria turned to face me, crossing her arms. "We have a problem, Ethan." I frowned. "A problem?" She nodded, her expression unreadable. And then she pulled out her phone and turned the screen toward me. My blood ran cold, because staring back at me was a screenshot of my online order. Pantyhose. Size, medium. Quantity, 3. My entire body locked up. I forced a smile. "That's, not mine." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Silence. The air between us felt razor-sharp. I was trapped, caught in my own lie, and Victoria wasn't buying it. My throat was dry. My mind raced for an excuse, any excuse. But what could I possibly say? The screenshot of the pantyhose order was right there, staring me in the face. Size, medium. Quantity, 3. The implication was obvious. Victoria wasn't stupid. She had put 2 and 2 together. I could see it in the way she was watching me, her sharp, calculating eyes scanning my every reaction. She was waiting for me to slip. And the worst part, I already had. I forced a chuckle, a weak, unconvincing one. Oh, that's a mistake. Victoria didn't blink. A mistake. I nodded quickly. Yeah, you know how these online stores are. One wrong click, and suddenly you're ordering women's tights instead of. Victoria raised a single eyebrow. Instead of what? Silence. I swallowed hard. I had nothing. She took a slow step forward, her heels clicking against my hardwood floor. Click, click, click. She was too close. She could see too much. Her eyes flicked down, scanning my body. I gripped the robe tighter. Was she noticing the dress underneath? The faint outline of my bra? My heart pounded as I stepped back, desperate to keep my distance. But then, I made a fatal mistake. I backed into the couch. My knee bumped against it, knocking something loose. Something light. Something soft. The blonde wig. It slid off the couch and landed right at Victoria's feet. For a second, there was nothing but silence. Then, slowly, she bent down, picked it up between her fingers, and held it up. A suffocating wave of panic crashed over me. No. No, no, no. Not like this. She twirled the wig in her hand, inspecting it as if it were a piece of evidence in a murder case. Then, with a slow, deliberate voice, she asked, "So, do you want to explain this?" My mouth opened, but no sound came out. There was no way out of this. Victoria had me. She knew, and she was waiting for me to confess. I could feel the walls of my double life collapsing around me. Years of secrecy gone. Everything I had carefully hidden from my colleagues, my boss, my girlfriend, all of it teetering on the edge of exposure. I had two choices: lie or tell the truth. Underscore 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 underscore. A desperate excuse and a close call. I sucked in a breath, and then, in a moment of pure, reckless desperation, I blurted out, "It's Emma's." Victoria's expression didn't change. "Emma's." I nodded rapidly. "Yeah. She left it here. She was, trying it on for a costume thing. And she forgot it. That's why it's here." Victoria didn't say anything. She just watched me, like a predator studying its prey. Then, slowly, she turned her gaze to the coffee table, to my phone, to the order confirmation still on the screen. She picked it up, scanned the details, and then, her lips curled into a smirk. She wasn't buying it. Not for a second. I was about to try again, to throw out another lie, another excuse, anything to make this nightmare go away. But before I could, the front door opened, and Emma walked in. My heart stopped. Emma, my girlfriend. The woman I had been dating for 3 years. The woman who had no idea about my secret life. She was standing in the doorway, eyes darting between me and Victoria. Something was wrong. Her expression, it wasn't just confusion. It was suspicion. "Ethan," she asked slowly, "what's going on?" Victoria turned to face her, and then, with a single, deliberate movement, she lifted the wig, held it up for Emma to see, and said, "I was just asking your boyfriend the same thing." Everything inside me shattered. Emma's eyes widened. Her gaze flicked from the wig to me, then to the robe I was gripping so tightly. She took a slow step forward, and then, in a quiet, dangerous voice, she asked, "Ethan, what the hell is that?" I couldn't run. I couldn't hide. There was no excuse left to give, no lie big enough to cover this up, because the evidence was everywhere. The wig, the pantyhose, the makeup still smudged around my eyes. And worst of all, the reflection in the mirror behind them. The mirror that showed the truth I had tried so desperately to keep hidden. Me, in a dress, in makeup, in a life I had spent years pretending I didn't want. And for the first time in my life, I saw myself through their eyes. I saw the person I had been so afraid to show the world. And I realized I couldn't hide forever. Emma's voice was sharp now, cutting through the suffocating silence. Ethan, tell me the truth. Right now. I opened my mouth. I tried to speak, but before I could, Victoria stepped forward, placed a hand on my arm, and whispered something that made my blood turn to ice. A single sentence. A sentence that changed everything. If you don't tell her, I will. The room was too quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat hammering against my ribs, feel the weight of Emma's stare pressing down on me. Victoria's words still hung in the air, suffocating me. If you don't tell her, I will. I couldn't breathe. This was it. This was the moment that would decide everything. I could come clean, tell Emma the truth about my secret life, or I could stay silent and pray that Victoria wouldn't destroy everything. Neither option felt safe. Neither option felt like a way out. Emma took another step forward. Her voice was tight, controlled, too controlled. Ethan, what is she talking about? I swallowed hard. Emma, I stopped. I couldn't say it. I couldn't force the words out. Because the second I admitted it, I couldn't take it back. Emma's expression darkened. She knew I was hiding something. And Victoria knew it too. She smirked, stepping past me, tilting her head as she studied Emma like a chess piece she was about to move. You mean he hasn't told you? Victoria mused, fake sympathy dripping from her voice. Wow. I thought you two were closer than that. Emma's jaw clenched. Told me what? Victoria turned to me, eyebrows raised, giving me one last chance. But I couldn't do it. I just stood there. And that's when she did it. She reached for the tie on my robe. I grabbed her wrist. My reflexes were fast, too fast. The second my hand locked around hers, I knew I had made a mistake. Emma saw it. She saw my desperation. She saw the panic flash across my face. She saw everything. And now, she wouldn't stop until she had answers. Ethan, she said, her voice sharper now. What are you hiding? My grip on Victoria's wrist tightened. She just smiled. She had already won. Because now, Emma wasn't going to let this go. I felt a slow chill creep down my spine. No way out. No more excuses. No more running. Victoria leaned in, her lips inches from my ear. Then, in a whisper so quiet that only I could hear, she said, "Checkmate." And with a sharp, sudden yank, she pulled the robe open. I froze. The silky fabric slid off my shoulders, pooling at my feet. Emma's eyes widened. She took a sharp breath. My heart stopped. For the first time in my life, I saw my deepest secret reflected in someone else's eyes. The sheer black pantyhose clinging to my legs. The soft pink dress hugging my frame. The faint traces of lipstick still on my lips. Everything I had tried so hard to keep hidden was now completely exposed. Emma's lips parted. She blinked once. Twice. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between shock and disbelief. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my voice wouldn't come. Victoria stepped back, arms crossed, watching the destruction she had just set in motion. Emma's eyes flicked from my dress to my face, then back again. Then, in a quiet, hollow voice, she whispered, "Ethan, what the hell?" I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't how she was supposed to find out. Not like this. Not because of Victoria. Emma took another step back, shaking her head. I don't understand, she said, her voice cracking. What is this? My chest tightened. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't calling me disgusting or storming out the door. She was just staring. Like she was seeing a stranger. Like I wasn't her boyfriend anymore. And somehow that was worse. The silence was unbearable. Victoria decided to break it. She gave a dramatic sigh, tossing the wig onto the couch like it was just another piece of evidence in a crime scene. Well, she said, I think that clears up all the confusion. Emma ignored her. Her eyes were locked on me, searching for answers I didn't know how to give. Ethan! I flinched at the way she said my name, like it didn't belong to me anymore. I had to fix this. I had to make her understand. But how? How do you explain something like this? Before I could even try, Victoria let out a laugh. Sharp, cruel, victorious. God, she said, shaking her head. I almost feel bad for you. Emma finally tore her gaze away from me, whipping toward Victoria. Her expression was pure fire. What the hell is your problem? Emma snapped. Victoria smirked. Oh, I don't have a problem, she said, crossing her arms. But I think he does. She nodded toward me. Emma's face hardened. She looked back at me. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Emma took a deep breath. Then, slowly, carefully, deliberately, she asked, How long? I hesitated. She clenched her fists. How long have you been doing this? I felt my stomach drop. That was the real question, wasn't it? Because this wasn't just about what she was seeing right now. This was about everything. Every moment I had hidden this from her. Every lie. Every excuse. Every night she had kissed me good night, never knowing that the second she left, I was stepping into this other life. How long had I been lying to her? And more importantly, could she ever forgive me? I could feel it, the final moment before the fall. Emma's expression was unreadable now, her walls coming up, blocking me out. Victoria stood nearby, watching like a puppet master who had already cut the strings. And me. I was standing in the wreckage, waiting for the final blow, waiting for Emma's next words, waiting to see if my world was about to crash down completely. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she whispered, I need time. She turned. She walked toward the door. And before I could stop her, she was gone.